This is Peter Helland on Citizens for Community Media, and I have a guest today, Judy Latanation, who's been on the show before. She went to Israel with a bunch of us from the area, and that's where we get the nice little wood-carved statue there of Jesus, Joseph, Mary. And you went with us on January 6th. You were there for that. And I've known Judy since the 70s. We met at the South Dining Hall there at Notre Dame, which was open to the public in the 70s. The last show was a speech by Henry Bronson, the son of Orestes Bronson. And for Orestes, the last years of his life, the theme for him was science. And the scripture that applies here is 1 Timothy chapter 6, verse 20. O Timothy, keep that which is committed to thy trust, avoiding profane and vain babblings and oppositions of science, falsely so called. I want to start off where we left off on the last show with Henry Bronson. But we're going to get into this show, and the title may well be Returning Bible to Public School Would End America's Moral Slide, which is what's happening in Oklahoma. They are now mandating the Bible back into school on the presumption that they are experiencing a steep moral slide, and all of a sudden they're getting real, and they're going to try to put the Bible back in.
And Louisiana as well.
Louisiana, the Ten Commandments, yes. And Texas is about to consider it. Yeah. But to connect with that last show, Henry Bronson, in that speech, I pointed out, had two strong positions that are never said. You never hear him said. He said, the end, in America, the end of the family happens when the father dies. So he's basically saying America has no families, okay? Mm-hmm. Because once we got rid of, by Thomas Jefferson, the right of the firstborn son, there's nobody there to take the father's place. And that's and Henry Bronson, 1897, an important talk at Notre Dame, brings that immediately to the table. But by getting rid of primogeniture and entail, the right of the firstborn son, you eliminate anybody leading the family after the father dies, and it's a free-for-all. So the family just disperses in almost all cases. He said there are exceptions, but that's the general rule. The other thing he said, in America, it's always the worst person that gets elected. Okay, we have a system set up that if you're actually qualified, you'll never get elected. So you have to, the first qualification to run for office in America is to be not qualified. Okay? Now he's literally saying this, and he didn't seem to be joking. Okay? Now when you look at Joe Biden, you have to consider what Henry Bronson's saying, and then the people we end up running for office tend to be the lowest in the culture. That's what Bronson said, not me, and you can look with your eyes to determine if that's true. Now, Henry was standing on the shoulders of his dad, Orestes, who was considered by many to be the best Catholic thinker of the 19th century. And Lord Acton said Bronson and Calhoun, who was a Protestant, were the two best thinkers in America in the 19th century. So Henry was standing on the shoulders, and I've been reading through he's got volumes of writing, so you have to where is Orestes Bronson's strongest points? And some of his strongest points dealt with science. And he goes directly to 1 Timothy chapter 6:20, science falsely so called. And he considered most of the science of his day false science, which we drink like Kool-Aid, okay? Mm-hmm. So, like when Judy took a class at Notre Dame to get your master's degree or something, right?
You're talking about the science class?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. She ended up having the same priest that I had my freshman year. In fact, the textbook is right to your left there. I still have it, Historical Geology. And he is teaching what Bronson out clearly in the open condemned as false. Okay? But Bronson did not win out at Notre Dame. Henry Zahm did. But Bronson here did speak at the Sycamore Club breakfast that you've been to.
Yes.
And the year before, at the Sycamore Trust, Father Miss Campbell was the speaker, and I went up to Father Miss Campbell after the talk, and I said,
a couple years ago.
Yeah. 2 years ago, and I said, Father Miss Campbell, he taught history. I said, you need to be teaching on Orestes Bronson and how he vehemently opposed evolution the last years of his life. And one of his main pupils was John Zahm.
Okay.
And when Bronson died, then Zahm took the opposite position of
his teacher,
of Bronson. And Zahm said, well, we can't go with special creation if we think we're going to become a great university. We have to go with evolution if we want to be a great university. He said that right out in the open. And they did, because they wanted to be a great university, you know. But just to give you a flavor on how Bronson attacked science at the deep level and at a manly level, okay? Because you got an effeminate defense of the faith. Okay. And since Vatican II, the popes have all been pushing evolution.
Yes.
And as you know, Father Murphy taught pure evolution.
Oh, yes.
That we came from a monkey.
Yes.
So Bronson writes, and this has bearing because the public school system has completely bought into evolution, along with Notre Dame.
Oh, yes.
But the public school system assumes evolution, where in the Scopes trial, it was illegal to teach evolution. I think it was 1928.
Yeah.
And now it's illegal, as my court case,
to do the opposite.
which I could mention, that was one of the reasons that I got fired, because I was teaching evolution, and then the kids said, well, we don't believe in that we came from a monkey. And I said, I'm just teaching what I have to teach.
Yeah.
I said, I don't believe this.
Yes.
That got me in trouble.
Yeah.
Okay. So Bronson writes, we have treated our modern scientists, sciolists, they should be called, and their theories and speculations, it may be thought with scant courtesy. So we treated them harshly. But we hope not with unfairness. We think it is time that the interests of truth, religion, society, civilization should be consulted rather than the feelings or reputation of such pretended scientists as Professor Tyndall and Huxley, as Charles Darwin, as Sir Charles Lyell, and Sir John Lubbock, and Herbert Spencer, and others who, under the honorable name of science, are doing their best to sap in the cultivated classes as well as in the popular mind the very foundations of religion, morality, civilization, even society itself. So science is being used after the Civil War to destroy everything about Christianity, anything good about culture, and they're going at it. And if you saw like the Black Lives Matter signs, underneath a lot of them was, science. We believe in science.
Science rules or something.
Meaning atheism. He says the earlier works of Sir Charles Lyell may be accepted from this censure, but his Antiquity of Man and his acceptance of Darwin's Origin of Species and Natural Selection authorize us to class him with the common herd of anti-Christian scientists. See, you don't see people in the church writing like this anymore. See, he's writing like every normal man would write. They're writing like such wimpy talk that it's ridiculous. These men, he says, who set up what they call science as the test of revelation, the Word of God, or of moral or religious truth, these men are the enemies of both religion and science, and the friends of either should keep no terms with them. Their name shouldn't even be put on your lips, is what the Old Testament would say. They serve neither God nor man, neither the interests of time nor those of eternity. Christian tradition is the test of truth, and nothing can be science that is opposed to it or incompatible with it. He who knows Christian tradition has no need to examine a theory that contradicts it or to weigh the facts and reasons alleged in its support. He knows beforehand that it cannot be true and is to be indignantly rejected at once. So anything that even slightly challenges what the church has always taught and held to be true based on Scripture, in most all cases, it is to be indignantly rejected at once. And if you're not indignantly rejecting it, something's wrong with you. Okay? Something's wrong.
Yeah.
Oh, we want to listen to it. That's not how the greatest Catholic thinker of the 19th century thought. He says, we reverse the common way of putting the question. Of course, there can be no conflict between real science and divine revelation. Therefore, we say, if what you call science conflicts with revelation, it is false and no science at all. But they say, therefore, if your alleged revelation conflicts with science, it is false. No real revelation, but a gross imposition. This was imposed on after the Civil War. Theology was the queen of science. Okay. After the Civil War, boom. Theology took second place. Science was first. Okay. And that happened across the board. And that was one of the main results of that war. But even though Bronson kind of became an abolitionist to go with the political flow, he did not want to succumb to this political move to make science above theology, which most people caved into. But it was done by force. See, when you win a war, you can force anything you want. And they did. They forced science to rule over theology.
Each state did that?
Yeah, federal government.
Oh.
By all kinds of, because they won the war, they could do anything they want. And they did. And they wanted to elevate so-called fake science above theology, and they forced it. Okay, the South basically had to go underground. And he writes, if what you call science conflicts with revelation, it is false and no science at all. But they say, therefore, if your alleged revelation conflicts with science, it is false, no real revelation, but a gross imposition. Some Christians consent to this way of putting it, which is making science the test of revelation, not revelation the touchstone of science. We object to this. Okay? He's a lone voice because the church completely capitulated to the science.
Yes.
Going exactly against only the best Catholic thinker of the 19th century. In his face. And Notre Dame especially. They have him buried at the crypt.
Yes.
That's why I told Miss Campbell at the Sycamore breakfast, the annual Sycamore breakfast, you need to get Bronson. So what happened this year? Trying to think what his name is, but a pretty popular teacher at Notre Dame. He just came back from Munich. I'll remember the name. I can put it on the screen. His whole talk was on Bronson.
Oh my God.
His whole talk was on Bronson. Bronson's been completely submerged. Now, did Miss Campbell say, somebody talked to me and said we ought to do something on Bronson? I don't know.
Yeah.
But that means Bronson's on the table, because this guy is a big shot. Okay. The thing questioned is the alleged science. He said, it is so-called science, not revelation or Christian tradition, that is on trial. Okay? Christian tradition is not on trial. He's talking about scripture and tradition, the whole Christian faith.
Yeah.
He said, that's not on trial. We're in first position. We were here first, he says. Who are these newcomers trying to just take us down? Because that's what America's about. That's what his son is talking in 1897. America's about just taking things down. Taking them down, and then somebody taking your place. It's just one free-for-all. Take somebody down, then you take their place. And Christianity's got to come down, and science is going to take its place, which pretty much was achieved after the Civil War. Bronson's a holdout. We object to this. It is so-called science, not revelation or Christian tradition, that is on trial. The thing questioned is the alleged science, it is for it to prove that it accords with Christian tradition or does not conflict in any respect with revelation. They have to prove that you're not going to be allowed at any table unless you can prove that whatever you're bringing forth does not conflict with anything of the Christian faith. Okay, it's up to them. And if you can't prove it, don't bring it. We indignantly reject you and kick you out of the house with a fervor. Okay? That's how they were until there's no longer men. That's what a man has to do. Oh, let the wolf in. Who cares? Let the wolf in. Bronson was not of that nature. We do not pretend to construct science a priori. we leave to scientists their method of induction without any interference or obstruction to find out all the truth they can and set forth and defend it without let or hindrance from theology. But if any of their inductions come athwart Christian tradition, we pronounce them at once unscientific and false. For theology is the queen of the science. Theology is the queen of the sciences, and you're not challenging the queen, okay? You bring one thing that contradicts Christian theology, we are going to kick you out immediately. The Holy Father does not undertake to teach the sciences. He leaves the scientists themselves to do that. But he is the infallible judge of faith and knows that no proposition false in faith or theology can be true in science. So when they allege as science what is false in faith or theology, he condemns it and forbids it to be defended or even entertained by Christian men. We've gone 180 degrees, and Notre Dame especially has gone 180 degrees away from the man they have buried at the crypt, underneath the basilica. So he keeps going strong on this, and in conclusion, he says, "But we may say in conclusion, we have uttered and recorded anew our protest against Sir John Lubbock's theory, which was our own theory in earlier years, and which we defended earnestly till the end of 1842, because Bronson had a huge conversion story. Okay, he's a pure Protestant American, and he was a transcendentalist, and he went everywhere trying to find the truth, and he ended up being Catholic. But he was radical at times, and what had ensnared him was a false science. He said and Lubbock was a precursor to Darwin, so it was the same kind of Darwinian theory, that the earth is really old and we evolved. It was the discovery of its unscientific character, its utter untenableness, that converted us from the rabid radicalism which we had defended all our life to conservatism. Okay? So what converted Bronson? We had the big conversion to Christianity, to the Catholic Church in particular. It was the discovery of the unscientific character of this pre-evolutionary theory, how that the earth was millions and billions of years old. Okay. And he got caught into it and came out of it. And he discovered it was a lie. Okay. That's what propelled him to Christianity. It said that discovery converted us from the rabid radicalism which we had defended all our life to conservatism, and prepared the way by divine grace for a further conversion, that to the Catholic, the Christian faith. We learned then that the spirit of the age is not necessarily divine, nor always an infallible criterion of truth and error, or of right and wrong. That if popular sentiment is in general on the side of justice, popular opinion is not seldom simply a popular delusion. We have in this article combated a popular delusion, not with any hope of recovering the deluded. For no one can be reasoned out of a delusion. That's pretty powerful.
Yes.
Once you're caught into this, forget it. You may never come back. That's why once you start believing, I know a lot of guys, they may have gone to Catholic school all the way through high school. 1 year, Kevin McDonald, okay, you don't know him, but he's famous evolutionist, and he has a very in-depth critique of the Jewish people from an evolutionary point of view.
He's from Wisconsin, you're saying?
Yeah, Oshkosh. And 1 year at Madison in the early 60s, I believe he had a Jewish professor, converted him to evolution, because Madison is all evolution. Yes. And once he took it, he could never get out. Yes. Okay? That can happen just a freshman year, because somehow there's a mystique, there's something really weird about going to these colleges in people's heads, that they'll sit there
absorb it.
Yes. And my mom never taught me much at all. She didn't go to church or anything like that, but she told me one thing, which I only learned later by reflecting on it, okay, because I didn't know what she meant. She always said, don't believe everything you read, okay, because, and I've said this on the show before, she was in a highfalutin sorority at Madison, so they picked her out. Time magazine wanted to write an important article on Madison during the war. So she was chosen to take the Time reporter around campus.
Oh, okay.
Spent the whole day with him. So she couldn't wait to see the article because she thought she kind of had a feel. You know, she was an English major. And it was all lies.
Oh.
She's going, this guy's lying. It blew her away. So she told me, and I know why she said it, don't believe everything you read. Time magazine is lying like crazy. Okay?
Yes.
So the best thing to be told somebody, you don't just suggest don't believe everything you read. You do not believe anything you read.
Yeah.
Don't believe it at all until you confirm it.
Yes.
That's the biblical, that's what the Bible says. The Bereans were smart. They didn't believe even a thing Paul said. The great St. Paul, they were commended for not believing in him until they proved what he was saying was
true,
in a harmony with Scripture. Okay? So you just don't believe people. Okay? And he says, we have in this article combated a popular delusion, evolution, false science. For no one can be reasoned out of a delusion, but in the hope of guarding those yet in their senses from losing them. Okay? The recovery of the deluded can be effected only by divine grace. It's going to take a miracle. Once you, that's why, and he agrees with Dabney a lot, because Dabney and Bronson say, your opinions, you are accountable for your opinions. Okay, so if you write something, you're accountable. If you write something that's wrong, you are 100% accountable for spreading a lie. And you go, well, I sincerely believe that. Those guys didn't buy that. They didn't buy this, they both Dabney, who are on the opposite side as far as Protestantality, they've totally agreed on that. Okay? You have to own up to your responsibility. You're responsible for what you believe, what your opinion is, and especially if you voice it or write it down, it's on you. And if you're wrong, you should reap a whirlwind. Okay? Because you could be leading somebody astray.
Yeah.
So it's best not to open your mouth probably till you're 50. Okay? That's what Plato says. You cannot become a philosopher till at least 50. Because you don't know anything. You think you know something, and then you blabber it. What happens if you're wrong? What happens if it doesn't agree with Scripture?
Then you're in trouble.
Yeah, and most people don't care. And we're all guilty, I know that, so I'm not trying to speak with a haughtiness, but so anyway, that connects us to the last show, and it's science that is that took over the schools. And for the Oklahoma governor or the Oklahoma secretary, attorney general, whoever it is, the head of their education.
Okay.
He's trying to returning Bible to public school would end America's moral slide. He's doing the same thing. And how this started out, my case to the Supreme Court, was I was passing these newspapers out, and you knew all about it because, we knew each other from way back, and I substitute taught at Clay.
Yes.
Okay. But I was mainly at Adams. And we passed out this, we made thousands of copies. Jack is the one that put up the money.
Oh, Jack did. Okay.
Yeah, he put up the money and passed out thousands of copies. And what's interesting, in this article, I wrote it in 1992, I talk about Orestes Bronson.
Okay, this is the Jesus newspaper?
Yeah, the Jesus newspaper. And what got me in trouble is, I didn't pass these out because I taught at Adams, so other guys were passing them out from the church, were passing them out on the sidewalk. But the Jewish lady in charge of
drama,
journalism,
okay,
the yearbook.
Yearbook, yes.
Okay, so I'm competing with her.
Okay.
Okay. So what did the Jewish lady do? Well, I guess she proved Martin Luther a prophetic, because Luther wrote the book "The Jews and Their Lies," one of his main books. So she sends a note to the principal, a pure lie. Mr. Phoebus, Peter Helland, a sub at Adams, is passing out these newspapers to his classes. 100% lie. They were given to me by parents and students. So she sent that to Phoebus. Yeah. The school board president, the one over that district, Adams, was John Lennon.
Oh, okay.
Now, I was in Young Life. I would have Bible studies with Young Life and his house.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, he was Catholic, but, you know, there was, back then, you just kind of...
He was a doctor as well?
No, he was the head of the alumni at Notre Dame. Okay. Alumni. And I found out through the grapevine that he then heard about this complaint. He called the head of the personnel. This is after substituting 8 years, and told him to fire me.
The
head of personnel.
Roberts at that time?
Yeah, Bill Roberts. Okay. Told him to fire me. Well, Pat Mangan and I went to his office at Notre Dame in the administration building.
This is Lennon's office?
Yeah.
Okay.
And said, Chuck, Bill Roberts said you called him to fire me. No, I knew Bill Roberts' mom. She worked at the South Dining Hall.
Yes.
Okay. Chuck Lennon denied it. Of course he was lying. Okay. No, all liars go to hell. I mean, Pat and I knew he was lying. He said, well, I didn't call. Well, then why would Bill Roberts out of nowhere?
Call you then. Yeah.
Right. So that's how this thing started. So then I got, you know, that was where I substitute taught all the time. So then they said, well, you can teach at other schools. And then eventually a teacher saw me bring a Bible into the classroom.
Which, at Adams or?
Tarkington.
Okay.
And they fired me. I talked to Pat. He said, call them back and have them put it in writing, which they did. Yeah. We fired you, paraphrasing, because you brought a Bible in the classroom. Yeah. And you can't do that. And that case was Roberts, a case out of Colorado. Okay. School board did not allow. And when this thing went to the Supreme Court, I actually got the best lawyer in the country. And he tried to take that Roberts case in Colorado to appeal it because it was so bad. But they used that case against me. The EEOC, Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, because it's been 18 months going through the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. That's how bad it is. Okay. But what happened, it took 5 years, and I had you do some stuff for me, you know, affidavit. Yes. You wrote an affidavit. I had an attorney who betrayed us, and then I had to go on my own. And then I found people up in Wisconsin that said, here's how you do it. Okay. And I got all these affidavits, and it got international news. Okay? Yeah. I found out from my sister that the CNN had as the top news item, I think it was January.
In South Korea?
That was in Korea. Yeah. The CNN News for the international news. High Court turns down 2 First Amendment cases. Yeah. Okay. But they blacked it out here. So internationally and nationally, wow. Yeah, different. The number 1 news item in America. High Court turns down 2 First Amendment cases. But here, nobody knew. Yeah. They tried to keep blacking it out. But my goal was, how do I get it out? Yeah. You know, and I would try. I had no money, but I tried to find attorneys that would do it for free. Okay. And then, when I noticed it was completely blacked out here, I wrote a letter to the newspaper to explain the situation. Okay?
You're talking about South Bend Tribune or what?
Yeah. Okay. Returning Bible to public school would end America's moral slide. And I wrote the article. And this was May 13th, 1997. The decision came out January 7th, 1997. And I wrote, Dr. Benjamin Rush is considered by many historians as the 3rd most influential founding father, next to George Washington and Benjamin Franklin. He said, if we ever take the Bible and God's principles out of schools, we will have a crime explosion on our hands. You can find tons of comments like that. Okay? Now, in the article I wrote, that the teacher said I was passing them out in the classrooms that got me fired, I quote Bronson. I said, Orestes A. Bronson, the great Catholic thinker, educator of the 19th century, who was buried beneath Sacred Heart Basilica at Notre Dame, Indiana, wrote in his autobiography in 1829 concerning his work as a socialist as follows. The great object as a socialist was to get rid of Christianity and to convert our churches into halls of science. The plan was to establish a system of state, we said national schools, from which all religion was to be excluded, in which nothing was to be taught but such knowledge as is verifiable by the senses, and to which all parents were to be compelled by the law to send their children. The first thing to be done was to get this system of schools established. Bronson insisted that the impulse toward godless education was, quote, an impulse which seemed too strong for any human power now to resist. Okay, now he got converted in 1844, but he had an amazing conversion testimony. But he was part of the, communism was big. Communist Manifesto was written in 1848. These ideas were big. And Bronson was writing it. He thought it was true, and it was based on false science. Marx, communism is based on...
So when did he have this conversion?
Well, here it says, the article 1829.
Okay.
No, the conversion was 1844, but he wrote an autobiography in 1829. No. I don't have this footnote back, you're writing this for more high school age,
So overall, how many newspapers did you distribute?
A couple thousand, at least, yeah.
And this was to the school kids?
Everywhere.
Everywhere?
Yeah.
In the community?
Yeah. When they got out of high school, many of the high schools, we passed them out. And my sister saw this article. She could not believe I wrote it because I'm not a writer. But I did write it, and I had my friend do the paragraph, so it makes it look,
more official.
You do the paragraphs right. But I did the research. But basically, John Dewey, for example.
Yes.
Okay, he's called the father of modern school. And didn't you have to study him?
Oh, I had to study
to become a teacher.
Right.
You taught 42 years.
Yes.
And here's a little thing I have on Dewey, just to give you an example of what I wrote. For Dewey, I had a big section on evolution. Okay? Thorndike's belief in evolution greatly affected all of America's education. So much so that the author, Samuel Blumenfeld, who's quite well known amongst homeschoolers, commenting on Thorndike's views, wrote, "The idea that evolution is merely a theory taught in the biology classroom is erroneous. Evolution is at the very basis of modern public education, where the child is taught that he is an animal linked by evolution to the monkeys." This was written a while back. John Dewey, called the father of modern education, believed similarly. He wrote, "There is no God and no soul." You could not teach unless you were thoroughly indoctrinated in the writings of Dewey. Yeah. There is no God and no soul. Hence, there are no needs for the props of traditional religion. With dogma and creed excluded, then immutable, unchangeable truth is also dead and buried. There is no room for fixed natural law or permanent moral absolutes. For Dewey, the school was no longer to be a place to pursue knowledge and wisdom, since he denied the existence of absolute truths. He believed in what we now call secular humanism, which the Supreme Court has declared to be a bona fide religion. In Dewey's words, quote, "I believe that the social life of the child is the basis of concentration in all his training or growth, and that the true center of correlation on the school subjects is not science, nor literature, nor history, nor geography, but the child's social activities."
Social interaction is number one, yes.
Yeah, and it's all negative social interaction. It's anti-Christian social interaction. See, because when I got my master's at Bethel, I wrote a big, long paper on homeschooling. Okay. I had to go to Andrews University, because everybody agreed school is terrible, but they need the socialization. And I'm going, you're not thinking right. And there was a guy doing his PhD at Andrews to prove that this socialization is a lie. Okay? They're not getting any good socialization at public school. It's all bad. What do you send your kid there? What do you think they're learning? They're learning bad words. And like you've always said, if you have one bad apple in the classroom,
it takes the whole class down, yes.
Right, it goes toward the bad apple.
Yes.
They don't clean up the bad apple. The bad apple infects everybody.
Right.
That's what always happens. So why would a parent ever send their kid there? Okay, and that gets to the essence of the show. The essence of the show is that in Indiana, but in most states, Indiana it's specifically articulated, but it's implied in all the states. For Indiana to join the Union, they had to comply with the Northwest Ordinance. Okay?
Yeah.
Because Indiana was of the Northwest Ordinance. Okay. And in the Northwest Ordinance, it says that a republic cannot survive I'm paraphrasing. Unless the people are moral, okay? And so every district had to have a school. You know, there had to be a place, place for a school building.
Okay.
Because without knowledge and morality,
it's not going to exist.
You can't have civilization. A republic won't make it.
Yeah.
And in fact, on my show on the YouTube, I think we quote John Adams. This Constitution is only made for a religious and a moral people. For any other, it will not work. So schools were the new church. They were literally the new church.
Yeah.
And they were going to preserve morality, which preserves a republic.
Right.
Okay, now they say democracy. Well, they hated democracy, okay? The guys hated it. Democracy was mob rule, and they hated the word democracy. They said, well, I guess we have to accept that it's being used. They wanted a republic. And unless the people are moral, you can't have a republic. You can have democracy, which is mob rule, which is a joke. Okay, ends in absolute dictatorship when it runs its course. Because you got to have a dictator to bring the animals under control. Okay? Because that's what you're producing. The Bible says they will be more like brute beasts, made only to be taken and destroyed. Peter said that. And that's what we're producing. Okay? And so here's the dilemma. Indiana Constitution, Article 8, called Education, states that public schools are to be established in Indiana for the primary purpose of encouraging by all suitable means moral improvement. That's the first thing it says, that the purpose of school is to encourage moral improvement. The teachers swear by it. They have to sign the statement. Yep.
Yes.
It's about moral.
Yes.
Yep. We're here to promote moral improvement because that's the purpose. But as we know, and 7 out of the 15 sections of mandatory curriculum mention Indiana Constitution. So if you were to say, show me your mandatory curriculum because I want to know what you're supposed to be doing. Well, you would conclude that almost half the time you'd be studying the Indiana Constitution. And the truth is, they basically don't study it at all.
It's not even a copy in the school.
Maybe. I hope not. They better have. They legally have to have. But I wouldn't be surprised. But it's all a lie, in my opinion. What it's supposed to be, they're the opposite. Okay? So, but Oklahoma is going, we're going straight to hell. You know what they're probably thinking. This thing's going to hell. The schools are completely falling apart. If we don't get the Bible back in, we're toast. Well, there was calls way back screaming that you get the Bible back in, and you rejected them. Well, all that rejection...
How long ago was that?
What?
That they wanted the Bible back in. Because they took it out in about the 70s.
There's been a group of people always wanting it back in. I'm part of the group of people always wanting it back in. When I ran for school board, I have it... This is what I ran for school board on. I put it out. You got to get the Bible back in. You got to teach creation. You know, all the things. Requiring that teachers be loyal to their oath to uphold the state and U.S. constitutions. Okay? Challenging any person or thing that is not effectively achieving moral improvement in our schools. If you're not achieving moral improvement, get them out. Remove them. Well, of course, I got 9% of the vote. They couldn't hear this. They can't hear this. Ensuring that teachers are teaching what the statutes require. When's that going to happen? Guaranteeing that students are learning what the statutes require. I said, if I run for school board, that's what I'm going to do. Personally visiting our public schools 1 day a week to monitor moral improvement.
There you go.
Okay? So the example was, I'm running for school board, and the radio's on in my car, and I heard the guy saying there's going to be this big meeting this afternoon. The State Superintendent of Education is going to be visiting at Jackson School. And I go, I better get over there. I'm running for school board. And I said, I might be late. It's going to be packed out. But how can I not be there? I go there. Something's funny. They're like waving me in like I'm a king, like I'm the main talker. I go, why are they treating me? Nobody showed up. Not one person showed up. And the one person, a citizen, they had all kinds of people there, but they weren't the local people. Yeah. She brought her entourage. Virginia Calvin, the superintendent here, brought her entourage. They had security. Nobody from the town, even though this was so important to people. Oh, so important.
We didn't hear about it. We didn't even know that was going to be.
I heard it on the radio.
We didn't hear it at the school. Usually they announce that there's something going on, but we didn't know about it.
Well, I go there, and the only other citizen that was there was there not for that meeting. She had a personal complaint, so they put her off to the side. So I'm the only one there. Questions and answers. So I tell the superintendent, we can't remember her name right now, I said, well, Indiana Constitution says the purpose of school is moral improvement. What are you doing to achieve moral improvement? She refused to answer. She talked about her grandchildren or something. Okay, it was ridiculous what her answer was. Didn't even come close. So then, since I'm the only one there, and it's all question and answers, I ask it again.
Yeah.
In a different way.
Yeah.
I'm trying to mean, do you hear what I'm saying? Indiana Constitution says it's for moral. What are you doing to achieve moral improvement? Never would answer it. I'm the only one there. She had to keep hearing my question, and she refused to answer it. Why? Because the law says you have to go to school. And if you say, why do you have to go to school? For moral improvement. Because a republic cannot survive unless people are moral.
Right.
That's why you have to go. That's the law. Oh. And then what happens when you get there? Where's the moral improvement? None. It's illegal to have moral improvement. Okay, now they could try to change the definition, which is they always do. They always change every definition of every word they can. Okay? But the word moral was written in 1851 in the Constitution. Webster's dictionary, #1 definition, the word moral refers to the law of God, the Bible. Okay. So why did you fire me for bringing a Bible in the classroom, reading it silently, when the purpose of school, the reason they're dragged out of their bed to go to school, is for moral improvement, which means the Bible, which means the law of God. And yet it's illegal
to bring a Bible in the classroom.
It's illegal to move toward any moral improvement. You can't move toward the law of God. You can't move toward the Ten Commandments. You can't bring any of that up. The word insane doesn't even begin to address how evil this is. And when we say how evil this is, the people that are tolerating this, that are participating in this, you're hijacking, you're stealing these kids out of the house. You're grabbing these kids saying you have to go to school for moral improvement. That's the law. And they get there and go, when's it start? When's the moral improvement start? That would be illegal. Now, nobody's bothered by this? Nobody is. Nobody is. Nobody has ever been bothered by this. That's what is so unbelievably...
Well, they're bothered by the school shootings and all that.
They're not bothered by the issue.
Yeah, but because of this, that's what happens.
They're not bothered. This makes Brave New World in 1984 look like child's play. The people are comatose, and they want to be comatose. Hold it here. Your own children are being captivated in what basically you call a prison, as far as I'm concerned. And they're around all kinds of bad kids. They're learning everything bad, no truth. It's all this fake science or whatever it is. And they go there because they have to have moral improvement. And then it's illegal to do anything toward moral improvement. Like, well, can a teacher read the Bible to himself silently so at least the kids can see, boy.
You couldn't even put a Bible poster in the hallway. Yeah, they took it down.
You can't put the Ten Commandments.
No, Ten Commandments, much less. Yeah, right.
So now these states are revolting.
Yes.
This is a huge revolt.
Yes, it's a good revolt.
And I wrote the article, Returning Bible to Public School Would End America's Moral Slide. Well, that's basically not true in the sense that we're too far gone.
Well, a start is a start.
If you don't reach them by the time, it's like what Dabney wrote. I mean, not Dabney, Bronson. Once you come into the delusion of this evolution, you get deluded by the false science. Mm-hmm. He said, they're not coming back, apart from a miracle. They're gone. You'll never recover them once they lock into that delusion. They want to believe they came from a monkey. They want to believe the earth is billions of years old. The whole Adam and Eve story is a lie. But they'll still want to have a Jesus, a Jesus completely disconnected from all truth. Where's original sin with evolution? How's it fit in?
It doesn't fit in, no.
Yeah, even an old earth. Where's it fit in? It doesn't.
No.
You have to fake it because this is by force.
You got to manipulate it, yes.
Yeah, right. But now their brain is going to be fried because now you're holding two opposites in your head. It doesn't fit. And you're going to act like it fits?
It doesn't.
Well, you just don't think about it.
If you think about it, you have a problem. If you don't think about it, you're fine.
They call it the Overton window. You ever heard of the Overton window? Overton window is a term that people just, they refuse, they go like this. They got blinders. And they will not discuss anything
other than what they're focused on.
That's it. It scares them to death. Yeah. Like 9/11. They're not going to discuss it. Yeah. They're not going to how about January 6th? Oh, those insurrectionists. Well, what happens if they're not insurrectionists? Oh, they got to be.
Yeah, one-sided story. Yeah.
Yeah, once they lock in.
Yeah, and they can't see another side.
Bronson says, forget them. You're not going to get them. You got to get people before they're caught in these delusions. That means you got to reach these kids by the time they're 4th or 5th grade. Yeah. Because the culture is taking them over. Social media is taking them over. Mm-hmm. So you have this, you have these schools where you pay tons of property tax. Now you rent.
Yeah.
But a property owner knows he's paying around the country. They pay tons of money to support these schools. And these kids have to go to school, and you have to pay the tax because of moral improvement. Mm-hmm. The republic has to have moral improvement. They don't even know, the principal. You had the principal. Then she ran for school board. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And she spoke to the men's club.
Yes. Oh, Martin Luther King.
Yeah. And I said, I don't want to bring her name up. I'm not here for that. But I said, well, why did they start public schools anyway? She's got a PhD in education.
Education, yes.
She had no clue. She goes, is that a trick question?
Yeah.
No, why would she know? She got a PhD. She wouldn't really know why they started public schools, would she?
Oh, you have to know that.
She didn't.
Well, I know she didn't, but
She didn't.
We had it.
They don't want to know. And that's what I wrote. That's what my article was about. Why'd they start them? Okay. Why'd they start public school? And I put it in. Let me see. Where did I have it? It started with the Bullfinch Report. Okay. A survey was made in Boston to determine whether a public school was indeed needed. This, by the way,
was that?
1820. I bring it up. Okay. This, by the way, was the first survey taken in America. Out of this survey came the Bullfinch Report. This Bullfinch Report discovered that 96% of Boston school-aged children were already attending a wide variety of schools. Charles Bullfinch, chairman of the report committee, concluded that there was no reason to create a new system of public schools. However, the Unitarians at Boston's Harvard School, Harvard.
Oh yeah, Harvard.
These are the devils running everything.
Yeah.
They put all the judges in. Booty judge goes to Harvard, becomes a homo.
That's right.
Okay, this is ridiculous. That place is off the charts. Okay, but they're the best. They're the best at what? However, the Unitarians of Boston's Harvard School argued that the remaining 4% of the children were a danger to the well-being of society. Therefore, on behalf of that 4%, they insisted that public schools be established. This debate continued. Bullfinch responded to the Harvard Unitarians that tax-supported public schools would undermine morals and would undermine the unity of the family. It ought never to be forgotten, he proceeded, that the office of instruction belongs to parents. It was shortly thereafter, in 1823, that Dr. Humphrey warned, without fear of God and without moral and religious principle, education is a drawn and polished sword in the hands of a gigantic maniac. Public schools were established in Boston in 1818 in spite of these sound arguments. This meant the end of true educational freedom in America. With the help of Massachusetts Secretary of State Horace Mann, the Harvard Unitarian elite conquered the rest of the state of Massachusetts for public schools. Impressed by Massachusetts' efficient school system, state after state soon adopted a similar policy. So the state takes over, and the parents don't even have any authority over their kids. The South did not have them, would not have them. Totally. The Southerners, none of the Southern states would ever even think of having such a demonic idea in their minds.
So all these public schools came from the North.
And Daniel Webster was one of the greatest statesmen we've ever had. And in 1850, about the Southern, he approached the Southern senators and said, "Can't you guys solve the slave problem we got?" The slave problem was getting really big. And the three senators from the South said to Webster, "We got, we're working on it. Yeah. What's the panic?"
Yeah.
It's our problem.
Yeah.
What are you worried about our problem for? Okay, it's not affecting you. You got some, are you a busybody in our affairs or what? Oh, you're going to liberate mankind? Okay. And Webster goes, sorry guys, if I were you, I'd get ready for weapons. That's how he said it. Okay, and weapons? You guys are thinking of a war? We're not thinking of any war. What are you talking about? He said, they have been teaching in our public schools to hate what you guys are doing down there, that they will invade you. By the teaching they're getting, they will invade you from that teaching in the public schools. That's a government indoctrination program, and it always is, and they are, right now, they're indoctrinating them to hate slavery, and they will invade you. And each generation, they're being indoctrinated to something, and they will do their next invasion.
Oh, geez.
They act like it's all neutral. We're just here to learn. We just love learning. Well, what are you learning? We don't know. Do they know?
No, they always say they don't know. We didn't learn anything today.
Right, but even the teachers don't know what they're teaching. They didn't start a curriculum until later in your career.
Right.
They didn't even have a curriculum.
No, they didn't, and the kids did better without it. The teachers taught what the kids wanted to learn, and that's how they taught.
Right, but that doesn't look good on paper.
No, it doesn't.
So, in other words, nobody knew that Article 8 of the Indiana Constitution said the purpose of school is moral improvement. Did you know anybody ever knew that?
No, nobody even talked.
So they never even asked. It's all about critical thinking. But nobody ever asked, why are we here?
Right.
Well, for moral improvement. Well, that never surfaced to the top, did it?
No. Mm-mm.
Did it ever surface to the top at any parent-teacher meeting? Hey, we're all here for moral improvement, right, guys?
No, we never.
No one ever asked, why are we here?
No.
No, this is critical thinking. And no one ever asked, why are we here? Can't ask that. Now, does it get worse than this? I don't know if it does. You got all this property tax, you got the kids from age 6 to 18, and no one has a clue what we're doing. Why are we here? We don't know. We don't know. You don't know? The person on the school board with a PhD in education, she doesn't know? No, she doesn't.
No.
So what's going on? It's taking the nation straight to hell. Nobody knows. We don't know why the nation's going to hell. Well, public school is doing the moral improvement, right?
No,
I'm just assuming you're doing your job, right? The morals are going up? Yeah, the morals of the devil. Oh, by the way, what's your definition of moral? You're going to have to go to the Devil's Dictionary because it's the only definition I think that we know works. I'm just saying, the word moral has lost its meaning.
In our society, yeah.
Yeah, because how are the schools going to address moral improvement if they have the actual definition, the law of God?
Yeah. It's
illegal.
Right.
So the only way around it is come up with a different definition that doesn't say the law of God. Yeah, but that's what the word means. It means the Bible, the law of God. Well, that would be illegal, Peter. But they're only here for moral improvement. That's why they dragged them out of bed. A republic can't survive unless there's moral, so therefore that's why you're here.
Right.
They don't even know that. Does any school board candidate know it? No.
No.
Does any superintendent know it? The last two superintendents are homosexual. So how moral is homosexual according to the law of God? And they're running the operation. Was there one citizen that protested? No. Was there one citizen other than me and that lady that showed up at the the superintendent of schools in Indiana? Nobody shows up. And guess what? Nobody cares. They don't care. You don't care that your property tax is... No. Doesn't that make you struggle? I know, but I don't care. But what does anybody care about? They want the Packers to win? I mean, what is it? They want Notre Dame to win?
Yeah, that's it.
Well, that means money for the community.
Yes.
So anyway, I guess you got to shake people or something. And then...
What do you think other states are going to go with the Ten Commandments in there?
It's going to be challenged. There's going to be lawsuits like crazy. I didn't make it.
Yeah.
Well, you can't have a Bible in the classroom reading it to yourself. That's imposing religion on the kids. That's why they fired me. And they stood by it. That was the Roberts decision out of Colorado. You're imposing religion. They look up to you. And if they see you reading the Bible, that's violating their First Amendment rights. This is called super insanity. That's what operates at all these deep levels, super insanity. You think this is the only where that you have this radical contradiction?
No.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
Oh, I think it's climate change that's causing the problem. Or white supremacy is causing these problems. And this is what the Democratic Party wants to put out there. Well, who's responsible that those kids are being sent into those schools? The parents are. Well, half of them don't have parents. Half of them are single mothers.
Correct. Yeah.
And you get a bunch of guys together. I was just with a bunch of old guys at a meeting. When they get off by themselves, there's only one issue. They're trying to make men out of the boys, their grandchildren. Right. They're trying to make men of them, and the women are trying to make them into sissies. Yeah. That's what they always talk about. The women are turning them into sissies. That's what they love to do, and they're trying to make them men. And the women have been winning like crazy, and we got sissies everywhere. This is what they're concerned about. This is what men have always been concerned about through all the ages. They don't want their boys turning out to be sissies. Well, guess what? They lost. The mommies are turning them all into sissies because the courts have been favoring the mommies like crazy. So they are raising the kids.
And the kids don't have enough discipline.
Well, when you have a single mama kid in the classroom, do you notice?
Oh, yeah, there's a big difference.
A big difference.
Correct.
That woman thinks she can do it. She can't do it. But she's been told she can.
Yeah.
It's a disaster. So, returning the Bible to public school in Oklahoma, maybe Texas, Ten Commandments, Louisiana. Yeah. Of course I'm for it.
Yeah.
But why did you even start public schools? Wrong. Why did you take the Bible out? Wrong.
Now, do you think the states, when they do have the Ten Commandments, is it going to be part of the curriculum or just going to be posted in the school?
Well, whatever they can get away with.
Okay.
But the show has ended. Good question. But we'll have to continue on. This is Peter Helland with Judy Latanation on Citizens for Community Media here in South Bend, Indiana.